The state of Louisiana previously enjoyed a state sales tax of 1 penny. In 2018, they changed the distribution of that penny. The state kept 45% of that penny and rolled back to each parish, including Terrebonne, the other 55% of that penny. More than a half penny given back. The sheriff would like to use a portion of that money given back to us by the state to supply equipment and an SRO in every school in Terrebonne Parish. If you do the math, the tax proposal by the sheriff would still fall below what you paid earlier this year. And when you vote yes, your tax will be 10.45, with a little change in your pocket. Don't believe those who are telling you that your taxes will go up. Help us by voting yes and placing an SRO officer in every school in Terrebonne Parish.
It's Bayou Time Sports, brought to you by TGMC's Community Sports Institute.
All right, welcome back. Martin Folse here. We have Fred Fondren on the desk with us. Fred's been helping me with the Andrew Robison case since its inception. Fred, good to have you back.
Pleasure to be back. Yet
another twist and turn. All right, we're going to talk about the arbitration, which a lot of people were waiting for, and the lady arbitrator that ruled on this case obviously narrowed the scope of what she wanted to see. She told the LHSAA, keep it to what you actually used to make him ineligible. So she defined her parameters. When she got everything in, to the victor goes the spoils, so to speak. Andrew Robison can suit up on Friday, and certainly I know you've looked over the arbitration. First of all, for most of us people who don't know what arbitration is, we know what it is, but you deal with it a lot. You read it. What did you think?
Well, to start off, the arbitration is basically a determination by a third party who acts as a judge, but it's not actually in court.
But it's binding.
But it's binding. It's binding, and it's not appealable. So the judge basically considered all of the facts, but only up until the point of the actual decision by the LHSAA and presumably the appeal to uphold the suspension. They didn't consider anything that came out after that. So any of the things that we have discussed, the TPR documents, those kind of things, were not before the arbitrator.
So she said basically, LHSAA, you had your investigation, you made your determination, this is what you used to deem him ineligible, that's what I'm going to rule with. Can't bring anything else in. And we've seen other judges do that in other cases. She basically did the same thing.
Judges often, under the rules of evidence in court, limit the facts, the evidence that can be presented in court. And it looks like the arbitrator did the same thing, limited the LHSAA to what was presented only before the time of their decision, nothing that came out after the fact that may support that decision, and rendered her decision only based on that.
And based on what I read, she pretty much dismantled everything the LHSAA came with, but she did put in there that Mr. and Mrs. Robison's misrepresentation about his alleged job at Hahnville is troublesome. Other than that, she pretty much dismantled everything else that they threw in to try to get him ineligible and hold their case. She pretty much tore it apart.
She did. The one question that I really had was, as troublesome as the arbitrator apparently found the misrepresentations by the Robisons, she apparently did not find it troublesome enough to erode the credibility of anything that they said otherwise, which I found a little questionable, but in any case, did not use those credibility problems to in any way question what the Robisons were contesting.
And, you know, and I'm not trying to speak through her, but obviously there are a lot of people out in the community. We've said it here in the desk for quite some time. And just the general sentiment was, hey, adults, get it together. Let's let the kid play. And it looks like that's pretty much what I read here.
I think that's right. When I read this, you know, I read it from a legal standpoint as an attorney. And when I first read it, I saw a lot of holes in it, a lot of unanswered questions. I read it again, and my overall sentiment was that the arbitrator was saying, okay, some mistakes were made, but overall, I think this kid ought to be playing football. I don't think that anybody other than the LHSAA, frankly, disagreed with that. Nobody from Vandebilt ever asked for that kind of penalty. Nobody from Hahnville certainly wanted that penalty. So,
but the ruling is important because he also plays basketball. It clears the way for him now to play a complete season in basketball, but he's still got some football left.
I think that that's probably correct, although that wasn't part of this arbitration.
No, I understand.
But I believe that's
but
probably
if they clear him to play, yeah, he's going to be
If he
eligible.
can play now, he can play later.
Yeah, he can play later. All right, we'll take a short break. I'm going to come back. Also, there still is a pending lawsuit that the Robisons filed against Vandebilt Catholic, the LHSAA, and Hahnville High School. I'll get his take on what does this arbitration mean for that lawsuit moving forward. I can't answer that. That's why we have Fred. We'll be right back.
The state of Louisiana previously enjoyed a state sales tax of 1 penny. In 2018, they changed the distribution of that penny. The state kept 45% of that penny and rolled back to each parish, including Terrebonne, the other 55% of that penny. More than a half penny given back. The sheriff would like to use a portion of that money given back to us by the state to supply equipment and an SRO in every school in Terrebonne Parish. If you do the math, the tax proposal by the sheriff would still fall below what you paid earlier this year. And when you vote yes, your tax will be 10.45, with a little change in your pocket. Don't believe those who are telling you that your taxes will go up. Help us by voting yes and placing an SRO officer in every school in Terrebonne Parish.
All right, welcome back, and we're talking with Fred Fondren again on the ruling, the arbitration ruling, clearing the way for Andrew Robison to play football at Hahnville. He'll play Friday night. The arbitration, or Rule 1.13, was violated is arbitrary and capricious. The finding of illegal recruitment is also arbitrary and capricious. She went through, we'll have all this on our Facebook page so that you could see it, the whole arbitration. But certainly, when you read this, there's a pending lawsuit that's out there. This judge pretty much ruled, I think if you read it, that the LHSAA, I think she dismantled them pretty heavily in her ruling. How does this affect the lawsuit?
Well, as you recall, Martin, there are multiple parties to the lawsuit, right? And so LHSAA is only one of them. Certainly this does not hurt the Robisons' case against the LHSAA. Frankly, I don't think it affects their case against Vandebilt or Coach Atwell at all. It's not Vandebilt or Coach Atwell that either investigated or suspended Andrew Robison. As for the LHSAA, they did it pursuant to their own rules. So whether that affects them as the defendant in the lawsuit, it could certainly negatively in that aspect, but I don't believe that the judgment of the arbitrator is binding in the litigation. So ultimately, it'll be up to a judge or a jury to make that decision.
Well, like I told Coach Robison and Collier when I saw them outside of the courtroom for the last hearing, we don't have half of the lawsuit answered.
No.
Vanderbilt still has not answered the lawsuit. I'm sure that's coming in short order.
I would-
and Hahnville has not.
I would hope that Vandebilt and Hahnville and Coach Atwell would answer the suit in pretty short order at this point.
Yeah, that way we can sort of cover the whole. It's hard to cover, like we said, 50% of a lawsuit when only 50% have answered.
That's right.
And we can't come on and,
Well,
it's hard to give the whole story when you have half the story.
it is when you are trying to report on facts and not speculate.
Correct.
I mean, what we're trying to do here is look at the documents that are presented, what they say, and interpret those documents in light of the law. And for me, in my experience with that, not to speculate on what people might say or what the outcome may be. So until they file responses, it'll be difficult to speculate any further.
All right, so with that said, we still look at the picture. I guess the ultimate goal for everybody in this deal. And look, this sort of vindicates Hahnville a little bit with the little time we have left. Hahnville came out of this probably feeling pretty good too.
Out of the arbitration, I'd say so. Not only Hahnville, but also its coach.
Right.
It appeared to me, just based on the documents, that Coach Salt actually agreed that he had committed a violation. And yet LHSAA, maybe because of the plight of Andrew Robison, tended to kind of side with them and see through that and just kind of wipe that away.
All right, Fred, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on an abbreviated version of it. We're going to have this once again on YouTube and also so you can read the whole thing. Once again, to the victor goes the spoils. At this point, Andrew Robison wins. He plays football on Friday night. We'll continue to cover the story as it develops and only when it develops. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you again on Bayou Time.